Chapter 5. Let Me Down Slowly. December 1978. Good morning, James says brightly, walking into the kitchen in a pair of joggers, a frayed t-shirt and white socks. Merry Christmas! Regulus groans, his cheek squished into his palm. He'd just been about to drift off to sleep when James came barreling in. James laughs and reaches for a mug to set about preparing tea. Still not a morning person, huh? I'm pretty sure that's for life. Regulus regrets the words immediately. They're the sort of things Pandora always tells him to keep to himself. People find it rude, this bluntness of his. But James only laughs again, stirring honey into his tea before turning around to face Regulus. But it's Christmas. I feel like everyone is a morning person on Christmas. You're about to get presents. I see no reason why can't we do this at noon, Regulus replies before taking a huge gulp of his coffee. Black, like the depths of your soul. Sirius always jokes, and usually with a cup of pure sugar in hand. Regulus! James! Monty calls from the living room. Where are you? It's presents time. That's why, James says, tilting his head towards the wall. My dad's been up since the crack of dawn. His excitement can't be contained any longer. Regulus finds himself smiling despite the hour. A small thing, just in the corner of his lips, but 100% true. James pushes himself off the counter. The worn neck of his t-shirt hangs a bit too low, exposing one of his collarbones as he sets his mug of tea down. He gestures with his head and walks out of the kitchen. Regulus follows, gripping the handle of his own mug a little too tightly. He tries to swallow the ball of nerves in his throat with another sip of coffee as they approach the Christmas tree. It feels strange, he realizes, to do this without Sirius. It was Sirius who charmed the Potters so he had somewhere to go when they ran away. Sirius, who is James's best friend. Sirius, who calls Effie Mom and Monty Dad. Sirius, who would stick to Regulus's side every Christmas and remind him they are welcome here, in this house. He made sure of it. Regulus is just the little brother who tagged along. Hey, James says, reaching to wrench the mug Regulus is about to crack between his hands. Do you need me to cause a commotion? What? A shrug. You heard me. Immediately, Regulus feels at once disorientated and overwhelmed. It makes him feel too exposed. He doesn't want James to notice how awkward he is as a human being. Doesn't want James to think he's incapable of getting through Christmas Day on his own. There is only so much embarrassment Regulus can handle, and the holiday has only just started. I'm fine. Okay, James says slowly, but if you weren't, hypothetically, for any reasons, I've got you, okay? Just say the word. Regulus wants to protest, wants to tell James that he's good, nothing to see here, he's not that pathetic. But the knowing and caring glint in those hazel eyes when he looks up gives him pause. James isn't mocking or pitying. He's not judging. All Regulus finds is understanding behind round glasses. Acceptance. Care even. It hits Regulus like a ton of bricks, and all his protests and lies die on his tongue. Something in his chest warms. James saw him. And instead of withdrawing, he's trying to get closer, to make it better. Nodding, because he's not capable of words right now, Regulus sits on the sofa. Reggie, here! Monty darts forward, handing him a package neatly wrapped and tagged. From Effie and Monty, it says. Go on, Effie tells him, almost bouncing up and down. Everyone, let's get to it. Merry Christmas. The rest of the morning is a blur. People open presents and screech and hug each other. James gets a lot of Quidditch-related paraphernalia, but he also gets some fancy clothes. From Regulus, he received a small golden pendant, a quaffle. A good luck charm, he explains in a quiet rush. I know you've already played a few games and the theme is great, but I bought this ages ago and I thought you might. I love it, James says earnestly. Thank you, Reg. Regulus's cheeks hit. He worries he might need to duck his head to hide his blush. But just then, Monty lets out a whoop. A new pocket watch, he exclaims, turning in his way. And that, oh, and from a Swiss clockmaker too. Oh, love, you shouldn't have. It's Effie's turn to blush, especially when she opens her present from Monty to reveal a necklace with a stone that would have made even Walburga's eyes pop. She kisses Monty so thoroughly both Regulus and James looks away, eyebrows raised. Ay, mama, James admonishes after a moment. Y está bueno. Io, perdona, Effie replies. She appears completely unashamed. Her eyes slide to Regulus when she speaks again. El día que tú beses con tu pareja yo lo vea. Me aguarante porque si es el amor. Me estás confundiendo con Sirius, James says, but he's blushing a little. Regulus is a bit annoyed. He hates not knowing what's happening around him. Not to mention, it's strange to him that James can talk to his mother so openly. A part of him wishes he could understand just so he could process what an exchange like this entails. He doesn't think he ever saw Walburga kiss Orion in his 14 years at Grimwald. Yo no soy de besar en público, Effie winks at him. Nunca digas nunca. All right, Monty says, rolling his eyes. Enough of that. Reggie, there's one more here for you. Oh, really? He hadn't noticed. He's accounted for everyone. Effie and Monty, Sirius, Remus, Batty, and Evan, Pandora, Dorcas. So who? Oh, James, you didn't have to. Don't be silly, James said, affronted. He leans forward, eyes darting between the small wrapped package in Regulus's hand and his face. You got me a present. What makes you think I wouldn't get you one too? His fingers feel clumsy. They are even trembling a little as he tears the paper open. He's all too aware of the eyes on him, and James's in particular. Regulus has the strange sense that James might not be breathing, which is absurd, but Regulus supposes he has no idea if his present will be a hit. Turns out even James Potter gets nervous sometimes. Shaking his head a little to clear the urge to giggle, Regulus gets the wrapping paper full. Oh, Salazar, he breathes in shock. Regulus runs his index finger over the front with a reverent, soft touch. How? Where? I mean, James. Beaming, James ducks his head to make eye contact. You like it? Yes, it's good, right? Yes, Regulus might pass out. It's a very real possibility. He holds in his hands a first edition of Wuthering Heights, signed by Emily Brontë herself. He's not worthy. This is a national treasure, the finest thing he's ever held. James, this must have... Regulus isn't really a person who thinks about money very often. He doesn't have to. Even after being disinherited by Walburga and Orion, the sum Alphard left him and Sirius is more than enough for them to never have to worry about earning a galleon in their life. But this book must have cost James a fortune. You mentioned it was one of your favorites, he says easily, like he just wandered down the road to the local store and grabbed a copy of today's newspaper instead of an extremely rare, valuable book. Wow, Regulus looks up, eyes stinging a little. Thank you. I don't know what to say. I don't think words aren't enough. Don't say anything, James replies. He reclines on the sofa and kicks his feet up on the coffee table. But maybe you can read a bit of it to me, so I can learn why you like it so much. Regulus is so stunned to form a coherent thought, so he agrees. His head is swimming with questions with why and how and terrifyingly, what if? James insists they start right now. They've got nothing else to do. It's Christmas Day after all. Regulus hesitates, but what excuse does he have? The fire roars steadily. It's snowing outside. They have warm drinks on the table in front of them. It's a slow day, a slow week. There will be nothing for them to do, no real obligation or expectation. There is no reason for Regulus to refuse the request, especially not when James got him the book in the first place. All right, he acquiesces, but only if your parents don't mind. James makes face, and it takes Regulus a moment to realize Effie and Brontë have disappeared, and left the two of them alone in the living room. Regulus reads until his voice turns hoarse. He expected James to fall asleep, or to at least get bored and tell him to stop. But James sits on the couch with his elbows on his knees, hands clasped together under his chin, a faraway gaze in his eyes. He is listening, which is more than Regulus would have bargained for. In fact, if Regulus has to hazard a guess, he thinks James might be even interested. I don't understand why Catherine picked that Edgar guy, he mumbles, rolling his wand back and forth under his hand. He's sitting on the floor now, back against the sofa and legs out in front of him. They are too damn long, and Regulus, sitting on the opposite side of the coffee table, is distinctly aware there's one on either side of him. She wanted to elevate her status. Heathcliff couldn't give that to her. James frowns, and Regulus hates that even a poet looked handsome on his. Who cares? Heathcliff loves her. She loves him. I don't get why they just can't be together. Regulus toys with the corner of the page. The book is old, incredibly beautiful, and he makes a mental note to research charms to protect it later. He's fairly certain muggles don't know how to preserve a book of this caliber. Sometimes it's not that simple. Love isn't always enough. It doesn't always solve everything. I would rather be with someone I love than rich. That's because you already are rich. Regulus rolls his eyes. It's easy to say you would pick love over money when you have plenty of the latter. But without the former, the latter doesn't matter. Not to me. Regulus sets the book down on the coffee table and draws his knees up to his chest. Effie and Brontë still haven't returned. He isn't sure how much time has passed, but snow still falls steadily outside. The fire burns low. Someone will have to add a few logs to it soon, or it will die. Regulus watches an ember glow and spark. He breathes the cozy taste of burnt wood, pine, and nutmeg that floats in the house this time of year. Slowly, he says, I relate to Catherine. I get it. You would pick money over love? James looks mildly offended at this, so Regulus falters. I mean... With a sigh, Regulus tucks his chin between his knees and shifts his gaze away. I've never been in love, he wants to say, so I don't know if it's worth more. The problem is, James's stare is too heavy. It makes him feel far more seen than he wants to be. I think I understand her, Regulus explains. She loves Heathcliff, but she can't have him. And Heathcliff loves her, but he's not who she needs him to be. Their love can conquer those obstacles. She knows it, so why make it harder for herself? Regulus wants to tuck himself into a ball, roll across the floor, and launch himself right into the fireplace. The silence after his admission is deafening. Well, James starts breaking the quiet. I think Catherine should have picked Heathcliff. They could have been happy. That wouldn't make for a very good story. Maybe not, but it would make for a happy one. Regulus' mouth quirks at the corner of his own accord. You would say that. Will you read me more tomorrow? Do you want me to? Regulus can't keep the surprise out of his voice. James nods and he pushes to his feet. You have a nice voice. It's soothing. I think I could listen to you read the Bloody Prophet and find it interesting. Oh, well, thank you, he manages. What if? What if? What if? I don't really like the way it sounds. Why? It's gentle, but not soft. I like it. James gathers their mugs and heads for the kitchen, but he stops in the doorway to look back over his shoulder. And I'm glad you like the present, Reg. I was worried you wouldn't. Regulus stays rooted to the floor, staring at the spot where James stood long after he disappears into the kitchen. He feels itchy. His skin doesn't fit quite right. His mind has gone a bit hazy. A tickle just there, and he wants to get to his feet, but oh, he's dizzy. So dizzy, all of a sudden, the whole room spinning. His jumper too warm, the dying fire too hot, and he coughs. Can't help it. Think it's a panic. James is too close. What if he sees? Stand up. His body doesn't listen. Another tickle, stronger this time, and he coughs again. It's violent. Rips something from his lungs, and there's velvet on his tongue. That flavorless little petal waiting for him to cup his palm and let it fall off his lips. He does, because this is routine now, a familiar habit. Its edges are as white as the fresh snow outside, but there's a hint of pink and yellow in the middle. Hey, Reg, do you... Reg? The dizziness is gone. He's on his feet. James has just rounded the corner, a towel thrown over his shoulder, but Regulus is fast. Even without his broom, he's always been quick. While Burga taught him that, whether she intended to or not. Reg, are you... Oi, Regulus! But he's gone, shooting upstairs as fast as his legs will carry him. He's sprinting at full force, almost detaching from his own legs with how desperately he's moving. His lungs burn, but at least he's not coughing. Regulus skids on the carpet when he reaches his door, throws it open and flinches when it bangs against the wall. He didn't mean to do that, but it's too late now. He locks it, back pressed against the wood, and breaths coming in great gasps. He sinks to the floor, but he doesn't stop when he's sitting. He keeps sinking, lies on his side and presses his cheek to carpet floors, forces his breathing to steady, to quell the panic seizing his bones. It takes him an age and then some to calm down. 1,000 thoughts crowd his mind, all swirling around the delicate petal he's holding in the palm of his hand, fingers crooked in a half fist to catch it without squashing it. He unfurls his fingers now, look at it for a long time. Will he have answers soon, or will it only ever be questions? He sets the petal in front of his face and stares at it until his eyes flutter shut. He doesn't know why he's exhausted, but his very molecules are wrong. So he lets a light sleep take him, if only to escape how he feels. He wakes to the sound of feet shuffling outside his door, quiet voices in hushed whisper. No sé, ma. He just ran. Este médico malo. Últimamente no se está encorando bien. Seguramente la coyo ma algo. Comieron basura. No, James replies. Regulus hates that he doesn't know what Effie asks him. No, we didn't eat anything. A pause. James sounds distracted. It's unusual that he'd reply to Effie in English. Whatever is bothering him, it must be important for James to beat this out of it. Do you think the book was too much? It might have freaked him out. Oh, no, Mio. I think he loved it. He's probably just stressed and overwhelmed. He has taken a lot of responsibilities this year. Like I said, he told me he wasn't feeling 100%. Regulus pushes himself to sitting position, dimly aware that his room is much darker now Then when he fell asleep on the floor, he rubs his cheek. There are carpet marks indented into his skin. I'll leave it here for him. Should we bring him a plate for dinner? Dinner? Merlin, how long was he out? He'll be all right. If he wakes up, he knows where the kitchen is. You are fretting, James. Effie's voice carries the barest hint of amusement. Come on, we're going to put on one of those films your father loves. Arthur gave him a new one to watch. Regulus waits until their footsteps fade before he shuffles over, reaching up to unlock his door. He opens it slowly, carefully, not to let it creak. The hallway is dark. There are no lights except for a soft-lit lamp on the wall across from his room. In the dim glow, he is able to make out the shadow of a book left right outside his door. He reaches for it, a lump in his throat. Wuthering Heights. He'd left it downstairs when he panicked, forgotten on the coffee table. Oh, he feels like a proper ass for leaving it. It's the finest present he's ever received, and he didn't even bother to take it with him when he ran. Regulus shuts his door down and locks it again, the worn and beautiful copy of Brontë's work clutched to his chest. He picks up the petal off the floor and gets to his feet. The jar is still where he left it, and he pulls it out to inspect the contents. One more amidst a growing number. So many questions, not a single answer. Regulus lets the petal fall into the jar, watching it settle amongst the others. Then he puts it back where it belongs, curls around James's book clutched tight to his chest, and squeezes his eyes shut tight until sleep claims him again. Here, James sets a mug of hot chocolate in front of Regulus the moment he steps into the kitchen. Steam billows over it, dancing in the air languidly. You must be freezing. Freezing is an understatement. Regulus can feel his toes, fingers, and the tips of his ears. He's pretty sure his face is one solid block of ice based on how the warm air inside the house makes it prickle. It borders on painful. He can almost feel the blood vessel in his cheeks melting as heat scorches his skin. Thank you. He yanks off his gloves and wraps his fingers around the mug. They hurt too, but it's a good hurt. The smell of chocolate is heaven. Room all good now? James asks, sitting next to him with his own mug. The only difference is the billion little marshmallow floating in James's chocolate. His hands are so large the mug looks tiny when he wraps them around it. Yes, thank you. How did you do it? It was a calibration issue, James replies. He plucks a marshmallow from the sticky drink and pops it into his mouth. Glad it's working now. Me too, Regulus admits, trying not to stare at the drop of chocolate on James's lower lip. Ravenclaw aren't as tough as Gryffindor, but still. I want us to win with enough of a lead that I don't have to worry about the other matches until we face Hufflepuff. James drinks and the drop disappears. Regulus is equal part relieved and disappointed, ridiculous as it may be. James nudges his shoulder with a closed fist. A friendly gesture he's seen James aim at Sirius countless times. Don't sweat it. You've got the house cup in the bag. They fall into comfortable silence after that. Regulus sipping his hot chocolate, James munching on marshmallows. After a good solid night's sleep, Regulus is back to feeling like himself. He spent most of the morning practicing on his broom in the garden. He only stopped because the snowstorm raging outside became too much, even for him. Besides, he has to get started on his essays. Next to him, James begins to fidget. At first, Regulus thinks it's because he ran out of marshmallows, but James sighs like he's gathering his courage, then turns to look at him again. How are you feeling? Regulus tenses, frowns. He doesn't want to have this conversation. Yeah, good. Are you... Ma told me you've been feeling unwell. James chews the inside of his cheek, muffling his word a little as he speaks. It's a nervous habit of his that Regulus wonders if he even knows he's doing. Just tired, Regulus replies, shrugging it off. There's a lot going on. You know how it is. 7th years and all. It's nothing special. I just need to sleep. All right, James nods slowly. But if you need help with anything, you know I'm here. I mean, I'm here for you. Regulus cuts him a sideways glance. James's skin is a delicious shade of brown, but the hints of a blush turn it darker and warmer at the crest of his cheekbones. Regulus isn't sure this is something he should have noticed, but he has. And so he can tell James is blushing right now. Thank you, he says, the words like honey dripping from his tongue. There's a change in the air. It's heavier, warmer somehow. Perhaps because they are drinking molten lava, or because the house is charmed to stay warm enough for them to walk around in thin jumpers. James tilts his head and looks at Regulus. What if? What if? What if? The space between them is filled only with shared breaths, and Regulus catches in his throat when he realizes how close they are. When did that happen? You got plans for the rest of the day? James asks. His eyes are narrowed behind his glasses, almost like he's readying himself for a blow. No, Regulus lies. Why? The essays are calling him from his room, but he ignores them. Shuts it all down. Responsibility? Don't know her. Not when James looks like this. Whatever this is, Regulus is too curious about what James might say next to care about something like homework. He'll deal with it tonight. I was just wondering, do you want to build a snowman? James asks. Regulus laughs. He can't help it. It bursts out of him from somewhere deep in his chest. It's louder than he wants it to be, and it rings in the empty kitchen like a bell. Are you 5? Oi, James exclaimed, grinning. It's fun, come on. When was the last time you built a snowman? I never have, Regulus confesses. He's certain that if they would had enough snow the past 2 winters, he might have, but London doesn't always receive Christmas with a white blanket, and at Hogwarts he's always too busy. Besides, Bertie and Evan are more of the snow is for throwing types rather than the snow is for building sort. A shadow crosses James's eyes. The silence grows, coiling around them. It's broken only by the screech of James's chair scraping against the floor as he pushes it back to stand, one hand extended for Regulus to take. That's unacceptable. Let's go. And I won't take no for an answer. There's no one ends up taller than James. Regulus is soaked to the bone, shivering despite the numerous warming charms they've cast over themselves in the course of their endeavor. He doesn't mind it one bit. Hasn't thought to complain about the small stick of pine tree stuck in his hair, and James's from the time they spent scavenging the wood behind the house for suitable limbs for their snowman. He doesn't care that the tip of his nose is red, or that curls stick to the back of his neck with a mixture of melted snow and sweat. We need a name for him, James says, coming to stand next to Regulus to observe their masterpiece. He's magnificent, isn't he? A colossus, Regulus agrees. He feels drunk with giddiness, a feeling of complete and utter joy that he has never felt of his broom before. He's inspired and brave, and so he says the first thing that pops into his mind. We might call him Theseus. What? Why? Well, look at him. Regulus gestures to the gigantic snowman in the potter's garden. They built him at the edge of it, close to the line of property. They'll still be able to use the space for Quidditch practice without knocking him over. Behind him, large trees covered in snow rise up against the grey skies. In the afternoon light, their shadows are so long they almost reach the manor at their backs. He looks like he could take a minotaur and win. What's a minotaur? James asked, bewildered. There are snowflakes on the rim of his glasses. Regulus huffs a laugh, curling his hands into fists to stop himself from reaching out to dust them off. Muggle myth. Big scary creature. Only a hero could slay him. I like that. We built a hero, but Theseus is not so nice a name, James mutters, wrinkling his nose. We could call him Heathcliff. He's most definitely not a hero, but he's okay. I don't know what else is going to happen, James admits, kissing his teeth. But I feel for him, all right? He had a harsh life, and Catherine, yeah, not cool. Poor man got brutally rejected. You are not letting that go, are you? Regulus asks, amused. Well, no. It's said that she didn't choose him. James runs his hand through his hair and looks at Regulus. Bits of wood fall to his feet. We could read some more if you want, by the fire. You know, to warm up. Regulus snorts. Fine, but only so you stop romanticizing Heathcliff. I'm not. He's a tortured soul. Unrequited love is awful, you know? There's a hitch in James's voice, something heavy in his tone that gives Regulus pause. He tilts his head and glances up at James. Do you have a crush on Heathcliff? James laughs sheepish. Maybe. Heathcliff is a hidden James, an evil fiend. You've got to have better taste than that, Regulus says, appalled. He rolls his eyes and looks back at their snowman. You're not calling him Heathcliff, but if you don't like Theseus, then we need another name. Bob, James blurts out. We'll call him Bob. Bob? Regulus asks, horrified. They look at each other. Very slowly, very solemnly, James repeats, Bob. Desperately, Regulus tries to keep control of himself. He reaches for his mask, fights to put it in place, but the look on James's face defeats him. Despite his efforts, Regulus can't stop himself from laughing. Much like in the kitchen, it's clear and bright and loud. So loud. Regulus should be embarrassed, but he has no room for anything other than the giggles erupting from him. He's cackling, doubling over, completely surrendered to the moment. It's spilling out of him, and it must be contagious because James is laughing too. They are standing there, snow under their boots and in their hair, gleeful laughter filling the garden. Okay, Regulus pants, fighting for breath. Bob then. Only because I can't remember the last time I laughed so much. You're ridiculous. Maybe. James wipes tears from his cheeks. He's beaming, clearly proud of himself. But you like it, so... Yeah, Regulus mutters, biting his lower lip. Yeah, maybe I do. James's eyes flash, and Regulus's heart skips a bit. What if? He's making eyes at you, Brontë says, sidling up next to Regulus to lean on the wall. The floor is sticky under their feet. Regulus shifts his weight from side to side, then frowns. Blinks a few times for his eyes to focus. He can't remember the last time he was this drunk. Maybe never. Who? James gestures towards the other end of the bar, where a muggle boy with auburn curls smiles shyly in their direction. Regulus purses his lips. He shakes his head and looks at Brontë. Doesn't matter. Oh, come on, Brontë protests. What's with you? He's good looking. You can't possibly think he's not. He is, Regulus agrees, because he really is. It doesn't matter. Evan returns from the toilet then. He takes one look at the empty glasses in their hands and braces on the bar, gesturing for the bartender. Regulus should tell him no. In fact, he should probably go home. He's too drunk, a bit morose, and very obviously preventing Evan and Barty from getting down to business. They are just too loyal to say anything. Reg, Barty mutters, nudging his foot with his boot. If you don't tell us what's bothering you, we can't help. It's loud here. Voices and music and laughter. A perfect holiday season day in a rundown muggle bar somewhere in London. The wood paneling on the wall taut when Regulus lets his head fall back against it. Nothing is bothering me. I can tell when you're lying, Barty says, giving him a pointed look. I'm not your best friend for nothing. I'm just drunk, Regulus says, defeated. Barty clicks his tongue, but lets him be, joining Evan at the bar to harass the bartender until she serves them. Regulus huffs a laugh when he sees Barty's hand squeeze Evan's ass, the little yelp of indignation from the latter. Regulus can't hear what Evans says, but he knows them well enough to guess it's some variation of "Have some self-control. We're in public." Evan should know by now that Barty hasn't known control a day in his life. He's well past drunk off his ass, so he doesn't have the mental wherewithal to stop his mind from wandering into dangerous territory. Dangerous meaning thoughts like, it must be nice to have someone like that. Someone who can't keep their hands off you, who gravitates towards you constantly. A partner in crime. An accomplice. Lover. Oh yes, it must be real nice. Stop it, Regulus tells himself under his breath. Stop it. He can taste alcohol on his tongue. The sweet thickness of mixers clings to the air, right beneath the more prominent scent of sweat and cigarette. It's a shithole of a bar, but Regulus is 17 and Muggle laws don't allow him to drink for another year. Besides, Barty and Evan insist they can kiss here without worrying about bigots. It's a safe space. Sticky floors and grimy walls, but safe. Here. Evan hands him a glass, and Regulus takes a sip without asking what it is. It doesn't matter at this point. Barty toasts to something ridiculous that makes Evan chortle, but Regulus is distracted by the way Barty's pinky is hooked on the belt hoops of Evan's jeans. It must be so freaking nice. Head full of cotton, Regulus's eyes find their way back to the boy across the bar. He's not looking at Regulus now. Instead, he's fidgeting with a pack of cigarettes. He has nice hands. Regulus tries to imagine what it might feel like to have those hands on him. He imagines they are warm, calloused. Why? Beats him. But it would be wonderful, he thinks, to feel the roughness of those fingerprints on his skin. Large hands, powerful hands that fit against the waist like they were made to hold him. From this distance, he can tell if the boy is taller than him. Regulus thinks he might be. Tall enough for Regulus to have to lift his heels from the floor to order to kiss him. A full mouth, soft-looking, tilting at the corner into a boyish smirk that just the right side of to smack. Wait. No, that's not this boy's mouth. Those are not this boy's hands. Fuck, Regulus mutters, looking away before the poor guy catches him staring in his general direction. Enough of this. I'm going to go home. Already? Evan asks, pouting. Regulus cocks an eyebrow, then throws the rest of his drink back in one go. It burns, and it's welcome. It clears the fantasy from his mind. Regulus shouldn't be thinking about him. Please, don't even try to pretend you are not dying for me to disappear so we can be disgusting together. We can be disgusting in plain view of you. Thank you very much, Barty says, grinning maniacally. Evan rolls his eyes. Fair enough. Are we still on for pub quiz next on Wednesday? Sure. Have fun tonight, heathens. Regulus is turning away, walking towards the door already when Barty calls. Maybe bring Potter to quiz night. It's better to have a team of 4. He doesn't acknowledge it. He can't. Instead, he hides in the alley behind the bar and disapparates, jaw clenched and shoulders hitched up to his ears. The landing isn't as graceful as it could have been. Full to the brim as he is with alcohol, his feet aren't steady. He stumbles inside, cursing under his breath at himself to keep quiet. It's dark in the entryway, but Regulus knows the layout of the house like the palm of his own hand. He creeps up the stairs quietly, skips the fourth step because it creaks a little if he puts too much weight on it. The hallway feels longer than usual, and his vision starts to swim. He stops at the top of the stairs for a moment to get his bearings before padding down the hall towards his room. Reg? He knows the moment he slips through the door that he's made a mistake. It's unlike him, but he's also never been this drunk before. Shit, he mutters, then blinks wildly in the darkness, trying to make out the shape rising from the bed. The bed that is not his, because this room isn't his either. Shit. Sorry. Are you okay? James asked, bare feet hitting the wooden floorboards with a gentle thud. Yeah, sorry. Took a wrong turn. Thought this was my room. Regulus's words slur a little, which is embarrassing. You're drunk, James observes. Merlin, why is he standing so close? Regulus tilts his head, but he loses his balance and stumbles backwards. He hits the door, eyes still turned upward, trying to grasp the details of James's face in the shadows. I'm drunk. Do you need help? No. Yes, Regulus says. Why? No idea. It's the drink stocking, the vodka cocktail followed by the tequila shots Brontë insisted they take at the sticky bar. Everything's a bit blurry, actually. James laughs, and Regulus feels like he could melt into the wood at his feet. What a beautiful sound, like sunlight pouring it through an open window on a golden autumn afternoon. Do that again, Regulus whispers before he can stop himself. James's hand freezes where it is, halfway to Regulus's shoulder. Do what again? I like the way you laugh. There's a spark, a blip in the natural order of things. Regulus is pretty sure something monumental has just happened, like the world shifted on its axis, and they are standing on the edge of something. It's a dangerous one, sharp and unforgiving, but maybe. Regulus pushes himself off the door. He steps closer. His hands are on James's chest. They are trembling, but they are there, and James isn't backing away. Why isn't he backing away? Reg? He asks. He takes a step closer, tilting his head. You need to slip this off. His fingers curl around Regulus' wrist gently, easing his hands away from his chest. The rejection stings. It burns like acid in the back of his throat. Regulus feels, oh shit. He throws up all over James's bedroom floor. Regulus has been drunk before. This isn't exactly the first time. It is, however, his worst time, and his most embarrassing. Merlin, he wants to die. Here, James says, bending down beside him to nudge his arm with a cool glass of water. Drink this. It will help a little. Regulus, whose cheek is pressed against the cold porcelain of a toilet seat, glares at him. Quit being nice to me. I just threw up all over your bedroom. James waves his wand pointedly. I said Ch.05 and now it's gone. Or did you spend so much time with muggles tonight you forgot you're a wizard? I don't even know where I am. The downstairs bathroom of my parents' house, because you refused to use the upstairs one in case they woke up and saw you puking your guts all over their place. James leans against the cabinets and pulls his knees up to his chest. He's shirtless, which Regulus hates him for. Why didn't you back away? I don't want them to worry about me. Regulus takes a sip of water, but moving his head from the toilet bowl makes the room spin. It's better I get it all out of my system and pretend it didn't happen. How many shots did you have? You reek of tequila. You know what that is? James rolls his eyes. Your brother is, well, he's your brother. Do you think we only ever drank fire whiskey? Please. Lily would sneak all sorts of shit into the castle. Mary too. Gryffindor had the best parties because of those girls. Regulus closes his eyes. It's so difficult to look at James right now. All he remembers is the way he felt at the bar, looking at someone else but thinking all the shapes that make James instead. His brain is still packed full of cotton, his mouth dry and bitter tasting. His throat hurts, and he wants nothing more than to fall asleep right here with his cheek pressed against cool porcelain. Did you have fun tonight? Regulus doesn't want to talk. He's so tired. Still, he answers. Barty was trying to hook me up with some guy with simultaneously sticking his tongue down Evan's throat. Par for the curse. Oh, I see. Well, that's fun, I guess. Regulus opens one eye to look at James. His expression is too hard to read, especially this drunk, and his focus is on his wand. He twirls it around in his hands, elbows on his knees. Even in the dim light of the bedroom, he's gorgeous. Regulus wants to strangle him. Clearly, nothing happened. He wasn't my type. Merlin, his tongue is loose. This is worse than Veritaserum. You have a type? Asks James, gaze shifting to him and then away. Doesn't everyone? James shrugs. Just don't really see you date much, so I hadn't figured it out yet. Why do you care? Regulus flinches at his tone. Tequila and Veritaserum are going on his never drinking ever, even if it means I have to die list. That's for damn sure. I don't. Well, I do, but I'm curious about everyone, James says it quickly, all in a rush. I mean, aren't you curious? Regulus closes his eyes again. Nausea rolls through him in a sudden fierce wave. About what? My type. Remus's type. Barty's. That's easy. Your type is everyone. Remus's type is my brother, and Barty's type is Evan. Why is this even a question? Regulus' head starts to pound. He will not throw up again. He will not be that embarrassing. Can you get me some more water? I might be sick. James pushes to his feet and grabs the almost empty glass from Regulus's finger. Sure, Reg. I'll be right back. Without James in the room, Regulus feels like he can breathe. All of his defenses are lowered, his usual filters gone. James could ask him anything right now, and Regulus would probably answer it without a second thought. What's my type, you ask? Oh, nothing special. It's just you. Moron, he mutters to himself. He lifts his head, room spinning, and takes deep breaths through his nose. It keeps the nausea from overtaking him, and when James returns with more water, he's able to push away from the toilet and lean against the tap. He stretches his legs out in front of him and groans. My head is going to kill me tomorrow. I have some hangover stuff. James is too tall to stretch his leg out, but he rests soaked feet against the tap. Potions and the like. It should help. A pepper up should work, no? I might have some, if not Mada's. She keeps a few in her bathroom. Regulus drops his head back against the edge of tube. I don't want them to know I got this drunk. Why? It's embarrassing. James lets out a sardonic snort. Do you have any idea how many times I've come home drunk? Plenty. I don't remember that. Because once you're asleep, you are dead to the world. Sometimes Sirius and I would come home and stumble into every piece of furniture in the house before we made it to our rooms. James's smile is a small fond thing. He rolls his wand back and forth over his thigh, gaze far away. Trust me, this bathroom has become my bedroom a few times. My parents wouldn't bat an eye if you told them it happened to you too. Regulus frowns. I don't really drink this much, ever. First time for everything, eh? First and last, I think. Regulus closes his eyes again. The water is helping, though with James back in the room, he's not breathing very well again. I keep doing stupid shit when I'm drunk, so this can't happen again. James nudges him with his knee. What else did you do? Stop asking me questions. Regulus' lips are moving before he can tell them to stop. Jordan. The guy who kissed me. Oh, him. Is he your boyfriend now? What? No, he's not. I mean it. We kissed, and then it ended there. James is quiet for a moment. Then, that's good. Regulus is about to what he means when another wave of nausea rolls through him. Fuck, he hissed, scrambling for the toilet. I was fine. But now he isn't, and James is rubbing his back, pulling the longer bits of his hair out of his face. And Regulus loathes that this is where his night ended. Evan and Brontë are probably having a fabulous time with one another. Whether they are still at the bar or already home, it doesn't matter. Everywhere is fun to them, so long as they are together. What's that like? Regulus wouldn't know, but he does know the heat of embarrassment when James' hand brushes curls back from his face, long fingers in his hair, just as he's always wanted, but for all the wrong reasons. He can't even imagine what it would be like to kiss James right now. He's too sick, too disgusted. The whole evening makes him want to take his wand and stupefy himself into unconsciousness. Do you want to stay here tonight or go back to your room? James asks when Regulus is finally finished being sick. Stay here, I think. Regulus leans against the tub again, throat burning. Might be better, just in case. Yeah, of course. James gets to his feet and twists left, then right, stretching, all the golden skin moving over muscles Regulus will never get to touch. Well, he did. Sort of. But he doesn't want to think about that right now. Or why James didn't immediately push him away. Except he did. He was about to tell Regulus no when Regulus went and threw up all over his floor, had fingers around his wrist to pull him off. Oh, how fucking embarrassing all of this is. Will he ever stop making a fool of himself? Good night, he mumbles when James reaches the bathroom door. Thanks for your help. And the water. James turns to him, a furrow in his brow. I was just going to get us some blankets and pillows. That way we're not sleeping on the floor without a little cushion. Us. You're staying? You don't have to. I'll be fine. The water is helping. Nonsense. You are green as a cucumber. Let me just go get us some pillows and blankets from the hall closet. I promise I won't get into your space. I just don't want you to choke on your vomit or anything. Regulus grimaces. Delightful. Trust me, it's not. James disappears into the hall, leaving Regulus alone for the second time. Nausea hits again, but this time he's dizzier than before. Throat tickling, brain all fuzzy, and that itch. Unmistakable. I can't breathe when you're in the room, he wants to tell James, but he can't. Won't. Doesn't want to think about fingers around his wrists. Rejection, that stings. Regulus shuts his eyes, but the nausea doesn't dissipate. Oh shit. Oh, no, no, he can't. Regulus leans over and cuffs one from deep in his chest. His throat burns, his whole body to them hot, and though his mouth tastes bitter and wrong, the unmistakable feel of velvet on his tongue seems to wipe it all away. He's delirious from alcohol and from whatever this is, but he can just make out the sound of footsteps getting louder, closing in. Frantic, he opens his mouth and lets the petal fall into his palm. Just one this time. Don't let him see it. He can't, of course. How does he explain it? This petal that's a part of him and yet something else entirely. The doorknob turns. Regulus closes his finger over the petal. The door opens. Regulus shoves his hand in the pocket of his jeans, unfurling his fingers to leave the petal somewhere safe, somewhere it won't get hurt. That need to protect it, even though he's starting to hate it. So many questions, not a single answer. Here, James says, tossing him a pillow and blanket. I'll make sure to keep out of your space, promise. It's fine, Regulus wants to say, but his thoughts are too messy. His head is so full of fog, it barely processes anything at all. But he takes the pillow and blanket and lies on the bathroom floor, his feet close to James's shoulder. They are opposite this way. James no longer easy to look at, but it doesn't matter. Regulus doesn't breathe the entire night.